Live from the home of Al Capone, Michael Jordan, and Deep Dish Pizza. Giving it to you straight from the horse's mouth. Unfiltered and restoring hope to the podcast universe. Gary Franchi.
You know, I forgot my lightsaber again. What the heck?
Welcome to podcast 17 without a lightsaber.
No lightsaber. This is lightsaber free zone.
It is, sorry.
Yeah, no Jedis allowed, actually. Only Sith Lords, but they have lightsabers too. What is this, podcast number 17?
Podcast 17.
And the G-Cast. I'm Gary Franchi. I'm sitting here with my beautiful co-host, Angie Franchi.
Thank you, darling.
We've got an awesome show lined up for you today. We want to thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about some news headlines that are currently scorching across the wires. We also have a beautiful guest who will be joining us, Deanna Williams. She's an advocate for women, and she has a very unique story. And I think you need to hear this. I was listening to it last night when you were talking to her on the phone, and my jaw dropped, Angie.
Yeah, I really had a wonderful conversation with Deanna last night, getting to know her and her story. Really happy we've connected, and we're having her on the show today.
Yeah, she'll be with us in the next segment. But you know, I'm reminded by the opening there. We have Al Capone.
Oh,
yeah,
the image in my head right now.
I know, it's brutal. We Angie and I watched the new Capone movie.
Yeah, because we like that gangster stuff.
Yeah, we like the gangster
Can
movies,
you tell?
And and I should point out Angie's Italian tracksuit today.
My first one.
Yeah, the results are in.
Legitimately,
you are Italian.
I am 14% Italian.
Grandma would be proud.
I think she would.
I think she would.
Yeah.
Well, she loved you.
I loved her,
you.
Gary.
I know. So yeah, Angie's got her tracksuit on today. I got mine. We're rocking the Dago look. But watching that Capone movie, what the heck was that about?
I was so excited and so disappointed after we turned it on for maybe the first half hour. It was just like, where's it going?
Yeah, I was waiting for something to happen, waiting for a storyline to develop, and then all of a sudden, Al Capone decides to take a dump in his bed. He has a nightmare, and then his wife wakes up, and like they just take a long shot, and you just see him laying in his bed, and he's just covered in feces, and it's like, come on, really?
Cut.
Yeah,
Yep.
We turned it off at that point, and then like we forced ourselves to finish it to try to give the movie some, some sort of.
It was so bad. I love the cast though. Tom Hardy, Matt Dillon.
Oh yeah, he was great. It was great to watch. But you didn't know who was like a real character. You didn't know who was
a part of his demented illusion,
his hallucinations, and you couldn't even understand the guy.
No, he had a cigar. Tom Hardy had a cigar in his mouth the entire.
Every single scene, and he's like drooling through it, and then like just seeing. Yeah, forget it.
It was tough.
Yeah, pro tip, skip that one. Speaking of people who are sick, 500 doctors.
They're tired of this.
They're tired of this, and they have told President Trump something. They want him to reopen.
Immediately.
End the shutdown, saying that it will cause more deaths. This is stuff that you and I have been talking about here on the show.
I mean, you don't need to be a genius to have foreseen this coming. The trauma and the suicides and just the effects of what the lockdown has done.
According to the article here from the Washington Times, suicide hotline phone calls have increased 600%. Liquor sales have increased 300 to 600%. That's probably largely because of
you.
And now we're losing 120,000 lives a year to drug overdoses and suicides.
120,000.
Suicide hotline phone calls increasing 600%. And it was President Trump who said we cannot let the cure be worse than the crisis.
From the beginning.
Right. That was the first thing he said out the gate. And we have been constantly talking about this, about the psychological impact of the lockdowns, the abuses that are happening, for children, families, suicides, people out of work. Mm-hmm. It's not good.
The environment for these things to happen, it's like the perfect storm. It's terrible.
Suicides on the rise amid the stay-at-home order, Bay Area medical professionals say. I think people have found themselves disconnected from the normal supportive networks that they have, churches, schools, and book clubs, you name it. When you have a life and you go out and you're socializing with people and you're interacting, it keeps us all sane.
It does. It becomes your routine, your normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are important outlets to have.
Well, and then, as we've said on the show in the past, people stuck in like a one-bedroom apartment in Chicago, like the one that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine being stuck in that apartment? Like,
it's a dark, dark time, and then to be stuck in your home for an extended period without knowing if you're ever gonna resume back to the life that you knew before.
And then being told you can't go out to the lakefront. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what they're doing in Chicago. They say you can't go out to the lakefront.
This is tough. I legitimately, I text my sister a couple days ago. I'm like, I'm depressed. I'm like, I had a day where I was just like, I don't feel right. Like, this is really like, it's a struggle to really like wrap your mind around it. And I have my moments. I'm a human being. I'm not a superhero, but I did get depressed.
Oh, I mean, I've
terrible.
been depressed too, because not only am I dealing with like these lockdowns, but I'm also dealing with
I see it.
the censorship issues and never knowing what day is going to be the last day that the algorithm says we've had enough of you.
Because worrying about if you were going to live or die because of this virus wasn't enough. You get to deal with all that stuff.
Exactly.
I know. It's been tough. It's been terribly tough on us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our viewers, I'm sure you guys have experienced a level of depression. Oh.
Well, we do have a little victory to celebrate as far as here in Illinois. Last Friday, what happened, we got word from Representative Cabello that Pritzker was going to introduce he actually did, a rule change to the Illinois Department of Public Health that would criminalize individuals if they went against the stay-at-home orders. Class A misdemeanor, up to a year in prison, $2,500 fine. And I felt upon myself to get the word out because Cabello text messaged me his press release. And I'm like, holy cow. I got him on the phone with Tom McCullough.
Fight.
I said, it's time to like, put up or shut up.
Put on those boxing gloves, baby.
Well, and I said, I went out and grabbed my camera and I went out in the backyard and just did a call to action to the people of Illinois. And I said, we got to make a change. This is not good. We got to put pressure on these folks. And it got over 100,000 views on Facebook, which is something I don't really put videos out like that for. No. But the call to action went viral. And by Wednesday, Pritzker had removed the order, which is beautiful.
It was a miracle. It was so powerful.
It was a really big victory. I was really excited about that. But then guess what happened? On the very same day that Pritzker decides to withdraw that order, did you see the article I gave you?
Oh, yeah.
Now,
it didn't stop there.
It didn't stop. The fight continues. And it's actually worse on multiple fronts, Angie.
It's like they're throwing so many freaking grenades at us.
Oh, yeah.
And how many are you going to dodge and how many are going to hit you?
So this specific story here, which I thought was really... It's 10 o'clock at night. You're talking to Deanna on the phone. And I see a pop-up in my news feed to this story. Illinois lawmaker floats legislation to give Governor Pritzker the power to confiscate property, including cars, trucks, food, gas, animals, and clothing.
Do you know what I picture in my head when I see that? I just see like this crazy madman showing up at your business, smoking a cigar, having all these goons take all your things out. Just the craziest.
That's like some Capone stuff, right?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Now, here's the real kicker. Okay? It comes from Senator William E. Brady, who is a Republican in the state of Illinois. He is the Illinois minority leader.
Thank you, Senator Brady.
Well, like, this guy is GOP, and he's literally handing over the people of Illinois' personal belongings to Pritzker. Pritzker, obviously a corrupt Democrat. So we have this Republican working hand in hand with the Democrat to take our freedoms. I mean, this is disgraceful, and it's a larger. It's symptomatic of a larger problem in the state, where we have a feckless, spineless GOP that doesn't listen to the people and does not stand up for freedom. No, they just walk lockstep with goose step with the tyrants in the Democrat Party.
They don't care. They're taking every advantage at every moment.
Illinois lawmakers are attempting to pass legislation to give government the ability to confiscate property from business owners and citizens during state emergencies like the ongoing pandemic. Senator William Brady, Illinois minority leader in the state Senate, introduced legislation on Wednesday that will give government the right to confiscate property from business owners who defy their lockdown orders. According to the proposed legislation, SB 3993, the government will set safe place of business protocols for businesses to follow to reopen. Customer density limits based on business facility square footage, face covering requirements for employees, regular cleaning regimens, publishing additional protocols. A business that complies with the protocols may reopen and rehire staff at its discretion. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But then it says the emergency power of the governor. On behalf of the state, to take possession of, acquire full title, or lesser specified interest, any personal property as it may be necessary to accomplish the objectives set forth in Section 2 of this Act. This means they can take airplanes, automobiles, trucks, trailers, buses, other vehicles, coal, oils, gasoline, other fuels, means of propulsion, explosive materials, equipment, supplies, animals, livestock, feed and seed, food and provisions for humans and animals, clothing and bedding, medicines and medical and surgical supplies, and to take possession for a limited period, occupy and use any real estate necessary to accomplish these objectives. Whoa! Occupy any real estate?
This is horrifying.
Dude, the Revolutionary War? Like, the Constitution says that we will not house troops. That's like against the Constitution, because our founding fathers are so sick of the crown sending in troops and taking up quarter in people's homes. And now you have the governor,
That's a good point, Gary.
the Republicans saying we can quarter in your home. Are you at this?
I don't even believe what I'm hearing right now.
Wow.
I really don't. I don't.
Oh, we're just getting started on the show.
Just getting started.
It goes on to state here, wow, take possession and for a limited period, occupy and use any real estate necessary to accomplish these objectives.
Back up. Oh,
and here, get ready for this, Angie. This is where it's nice. Oh, this is where they give you the compensation.
stop.
But only upon the undertaking by the state to pay just compensation, therefore, as in this act provided. And then for only the following provisions: the governor or a person or persons, as the governor may authorize to do so, may forthwith take possession of property for and on behalf of the state, provided, however, the persons shall, whatever. It just says they're going to give you, in cases where the sum the owner is willing to accept, just compensation is less than $1,000, copies of the statements, blah, 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 blah.
And you wonder why people are getting depressed and committing suicide. How much force are you going to put on people and businesses? How much more?
Well, I want to point out,
Illinois.
though, that this is only a bill that has been introduced.
Yeah. It's scary enough. Go
It
to
should-
bed thinking about that happening.
And this shows you their intent. Mm-hmm. This is what they want to do. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Tyrants are grabbing for more.
Good headline.
Yeah,
Ain't that the truth?
it certainly is.
Woo! We got a lot of papers on
Is
this.
it warm in here or what?
It's getting hot in here.
Oh my God. So what else is on your mind? We got 5 minutes left in this segment. I think we burned through all of our news already. What did we miss? Did I not cover something? Maybe we should look back at what the doctors are telling President Trump.
Yeah, that was a really good article. We went through that too quickly.
Yeah,
Let's
we kinda-
go back to
yeah.
that for sure.
Dr. Simone Gold, an emergency medical specialist, authored the letter, which was signed by more than 500 other physicians. It says, the letter states, "We are alarmed at what appears to be the lack of consideration for the future health of our patients. It's impossible to overstate the short, medium, and long-term harm to people's health with a continued shutdown."
This is what really grabbed me. She said, "We just want America to hear the story. We feel like there is one narrative out there. You need to hear the whole picture, the rest of the story," Dr. Gold said. And it's so true. I feel like from the beginning, like we talked about when Trump was like, look, this is bad. People are going to commit suicide. People are depressed. Nobody allowed him to speak. They're just like, no, we're not taking that from you. We're not taking that bit of information from you and acknowledging it, even though it is absolutely 100% true how dangerous this is, the situation. And this needs to be brought up more and more and more. This is the after effects. This is what we're going to be dealt with and having to deal with for a very long period of time.
What blows my mind is that when you have people at the Center for Disease Control, National Institute of Health, you have people at these high levels of the government medical bureaucracy, and like, did they seriously not take these points into consideration when they went ahead and extended the lockdown? First it was flatten the curve, now it's find the cure. They keep kicking the can down the road. I mean, yeah, we're seeing some of the states open up, but here in Illinois, it's been a pretty slow roll.
Very slow.
On the 29th, they're going to have, I believe, partial opening of some of the businesses. I think haircuts and other things like that. But I think, who was it? The governor, I'm sorry, the mayor of Chicago, Oscar the Grouch. She says she's not going to run in line with the governor's plan.
No, she's good. And I just read an article on a number of restaurants that are going to be permanently closed due to the lockdown.
And what happens?
They're not going to reopen.
What happens to those people? What happens to those families? What happens to those employees?
It's not. I mean, we're talking major restaurants in the city, but what about the mom and pop little places? They're not reopening.
Well, the restaurants and the big box stores that have deep pockets, that are run by big corporations, they'll be just fine. They can run, with nothing for a while, because they'll continue to get lines of credit. But the mom and pop stores, they're going to evaporate.
I was on the phone with a friend of ours who runs a business, and she was telling me that if this continues, they're not going to survive. And another friend of ours whose business will also probably not survive, and I just broke down crying. This is people's livelihood. The change of this that's occurring. Yeah. And that's going to lead to more depression and more people who are, suicidal, without a doubt.
It's bad. It's bad all around.
But that's what we're here for. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to shed a light on it. We're going to.
We don't want to be all doom
people who are doing something about it.
Yeah, we don't want to be all doom and gloom here. We certainly don't want to do that. But we have to point out these very important facts, and we have to come together to find a solution.
We have to share this narrative out there because it's not being heard enough.
We need to make sure we push back against some of these things and give people some hope.
There's definitely
There is hope. There certainly is.
We certainly are going to be visiting our stores very soon. You're going for your first haircut.
I can't wait. Man, my hair's...
Woo! I got all 4 of you lined up for appointments on next Saturday.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
When you said that, you're like, I said, wow, we're out of quarantine?
It feels good, right?
Feels like we're getting back to normal again.
Our kids need it. Oh my gosh. They are ready. They are ready to feel some sort of, they're ready to feel what life felt like before.
Well, hearing little Gary go, I hate Corona. I hate it. I hate COVID.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's really affected them, but we're going to change that. every day.
So let's get to our next. Okay, coming up after this break, we have Deanna Williams, advocate for women.
Yes.
An amazing story. We're going to talk to her about why she's
champions.
I'm sorry.
Speaking of champions for change, Deanna has been working very hard to get her story out and to help a lot of people who are needing help the way she did. She's learned a lot throughout her experiences, and she's giving back now.
So she's going to be joining us on the other side of the break on the G-Cast, Deanna Williams, and I'm with my beautiful bride, Angie Franchi. We'll be right back.
Be right
The G-Cast will be right back after this short break from our sponsors. G-Cast After Hours is back.
Welcome back to the G-Cast. Gary Franchi here with my beautiful bride, Angie Franchi.
What's up?
We're rolling into the B block right now. Before we do open with our guest, Deanna Williams, I want to make sure that you have the coffee you need to survive this pandemic and all pandemics ahead. 25-year shelf life, Franklin's Finest. Wake up with G-Cast, $97, gets you like 780 servings. It's shelf stable, extended shelf life. It's a 100% Colombian medium roast coffee.
It's non-GMO.
And it's non-GMO. It smells great. And it's a 1-year supply.
It's good stuff.
$97. $97 for an entire year's supply. You can't go wrong.
We've cracked into it
a couple
times.
If you think about, if you go to the store and you buy like the Folgers freeze-dried coffee or whatever that coffee is. Mm-hmm. How much is that? Like $5, $6,
more,
$7?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's going to last you what? A couple weeks, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Depends on how much
Okay.
coffee you drink.
Well, I mean, you could buy this just to have it, rather than having it for. You could buy one for the survival preparedness, and you could also have one just for daily use. And I think that's a super excellent deal if you're a coffee junkie like my wife.
I am. And I've noticed that, it's strong enough. I like my coffee strong, so I don't even use, it says 2 tablespoons. I end up using maybe one because it is strong enough. So like you're using less.
Well, and you can temper the strength because it is
Yeah.
like regular coffee. The more scoops, the less water, yada yada, and you can, like you
Making
say,
my whip coffee with
or
it.
you like you say, you like to rock it off. With your
Like, yeah,
coffee.
I'm
'Cause
out.
you rock it,
It's like going through the walls. If it's
yeah,
good coffee, I'm
bouncing
like,
off the walls.
oh man, it's good stuff.
So tell us about our guest.
We have Deanna Williams on the show tonight. She is a women's advocate. Deanna's had quite a life, quite a bit of intense experiences, and she's here with us today to tell us a bit about that and how she's helping women around her right now.
Deanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Deanna.
Thank you, Angie. Good to be with you.
I really enjoyed chatting with you last night, getting to know you and your story, and I'm really excited to share with our viewers who you are and what you've been up to and what you do now. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I came to advocating through my own experiences. I found that when I needed help and reached out, that I couldn't find the resources specific to my situation. So during the process of recovery and also seeking justice, I decided to journal what my experiences were, especially when I was struggling. And this is important for anyone who is going through any situation of trauma. If you can put it down on paper and identify what you're struggling with and address each thing, it becomes a lot more manageable. In documenting my experience, I learned a lot about what can be done differently and what can be done to help. So that's what I do now, and I really enjoy being trusted by women who are in positions of extreme vulnerability and times of crisis. So it is just a privilege to be able to come alongside those who are experiencing some of the same things I experienced, and hopefully for a little bit of hope and some resources through their journey.
Can you give us some of the list some of the experiences that led you to this point? Because what I was hearing last night, when my wife was talking to you, I was really taken back. Now, we're friends on Facebook, and I've seen some of your Facebook posts talking about some of the high-profile people that you have interacted with in your life, and I, just in the mere snapshots that I get through whenever Mark Zuckerberg decides to show me your posts, I find it to be pretty fascinating. So if you could give us a little snapshot of some of those experiences to give our listeners some context before we go into into some of the other things you're doing.
Absolutely. I became involved in the work that I do in a way that no one wants to be a part of this club, so to speak. Someone who is victimized by a high-profile person who is in a position of power due to economic strength and extraordinary wealth and influence within the community. I was sexually assaulted by a neighbor, a very high-profile person, and though I'm not at liberty to speak of who he is, someone in a position of extraordinary power, and I did not know where to go, what to do. I was afraid of the things that people would normally be afraid of when reporting rape to the police. I was terrified that immediately I might have media to deal with, the impact on my children, if I needed to find a safe place, if there were additional threats. I had no idea how to approach this, and there was really no one there to offer those resources or to help me deal with all of a sudden my life was one day, then I had national media calling me, knocking on my door, following me. ESPN even named me. And the harassment, intimidation, blaming that I experienced were something I never expected. I actually expected that I would be believed and receive justice. And I was very naive when I started out. I believed I was doing the right thing in reporting it, and I still do. I would do the same thing over again. But I wish I had had a resource to stand beside me who knew what I would be facing and
Deanna,
had some answers and some hope.
Deanna, I'm going to ask you a question. What year did this take place?
This happened in 2009, October 27th, 2009. It was a Tuesday night. I remember the details like it was an hour ago.
So this is long before the Me Too movement became something, and then it was nothing, because now they don't want to listen to the accusations against Joe Biden, which is, you can clearly see the political motivation there. So this is before the Me Too movement. Given that the Me Too movement did arrive on the scene some years ago, what was your initial reaction to that with respect to what you experienced? Were you hopeful that this is going to make a change? And do you think that what's happening now with the Me Too movement has tarnished it?
I was initially hopeful that it would bring forward people. The thing that happens, and one thing that I am tremendously thankful for, there are those who try to shame me for what I have experienced. My answer to it is to speak out about it and to talk to other people. Because what I keep hidden and don't share with other people, it can't help anyone else. I am not a experience. There's so many women who have been victimized, and by sharing my story, I'm able to help. That part of it, I had hope in the Me Too movement. That dissipated over a period of time, and a lot of stories that were coming out of people who had received unwanted invitations for dates, things of that nature. And my opinion is, if everything is sexual assault, then nothing is. If we take every little thing by which someone is offended by and take action on that, then the serious things, the trauma, the sexual assault that changes lives, those things are going to be punished as they should be. So the Me Too movement, I believe, is largely politically motivated, and it may serve certain victims while it shuts out others.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I was very hopeful myself when this movement began, but we see where it's headed and what's been going on. As far as the stay-at-home order right now, how do you feel that's impacting at-risk women and children right now?
We know that anytime you limit the freedom of movement, when you have a curfew and you're not allowing those who are in a position to be victimized to seek safe spaces, to find different place to go when they feel threatened.
Yeah.
Obviously, victimization is going to happen. You're just creating an environment where there is no escape. And in a situation of panic, in any crisis situation, you're always going to have an uptick in domestic violence and sexual assault. We've seen that throughout history. This is a crisis unlike anything we've ever seen. And the stress and the panic surrounding it just magnify the intensity of the victimization that we see happening now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was saying to Gary that you could have foreseen this happening. This is the perfect storm for more of this to be going on.
What about our last guest, Dr. Mercier?
Mm-hmm.
Right outside of her office, outside of her
witnessed.
practice, she witnessed a domestic dispute about, was it a woman on the hood of a car or a man on the hood of a car driving down the street?
Yes, a woman had placed herself on top of the hood of the car while the man was trying to drive, and they were obviously in a huge argument, and our friend, Dr. Jennifer Mercier, tried to intervene and tried to get them calmed down.
Mm-hmm.
It was intense, but she really felt this was directly from what's been going on, from the lockdown and the state of the world and this pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's something you would do, though. I can see you.
Don't you move, Francie.
You're not getting
Stop
away
right
from
there.
me. Oh, I love you. So you had actually a pretty interesting phone call, Deanna. Somebody high profile, a conference call.
I did.
Are you able to talk about it? Who is this person?
I can speak a little bit about it. I had the opportunity to be present on a conference call with President Trump, and that was an honor to be able to join and hear some of the updates and some of the things that are happening. Deborah Birx was also part of that call, which was interesting. It was interesting to hear a little bit about what is happening. And this centered primarily my interest in this. I serve women. I serve women in the United States. A part of what I do is missions, and I serve women who are trapped in human sex trafficking in different countries. And part of that is Central and South America. So there were some very interesting updates, the energy of this call and the hope that is springing forth by the reopening of other countries. And it's interesting to see how other countries are impacted by this and how they're dealing with it. And we also spoke of at-risk communities and some of the action steps that are planned.
If I could jump in, are you talking about sex trafficking as it relates to the pandemic, or is it just sex trafficking or human trafficking in general?
It's human trafficking in general. We will see, because of the pandemic, we are going to see a number of people who are so impacted that they may be tempted to turn in this direction or seek help or end up, because of a vulnerable situation, recruited or trapped in sex trafficking. This is always the case following a situation that depresses the economy. We don't even know what that impact is, but this is one of the most severe in history. So we're certainly expecting a rise in that, unfortunately.
Now, you were about to go on to another point of the call before I jumped in.
The hope of this call, the optimism of President Trump was inspiring. It was just a privilege to actually be on that call and to listen to his hope, his plan. One thing that you cannot leave a conversation. I'll be honest, I have been a little bit disappointed in some of the response, in some of the overreaction that I believe will create so much more devastation than the actual virus. So this has been difficult politically. So it was great to have an opportunity to reinvigorate some of that hope again. And you cannot help but notice the president's love for the country and his kindness and warmth. That was actually amazing.
Wait a second. I thought he was a racist who hated America, and he was a Russian agent. Come on.
That doesn't seem to be the case at all.
Oh,
excuse me.
Well, we got to crush those narratives. They're so ridiculous to consider, but we've been hearing them for 3 years, and they continue and they persist. But when you finally meet the guy, as Angie and I have met him, you realize that he's just, he's
genuine.
He's a genuine person, and the story of when Angie and I met him and we got the photograph and he bypassed Secret Service protocol so we could be in the picture, and, recognizing that I wouldn't take the picture without my wife. And, he saw that and he stepped forward and he said, go get your wife. And, when Secret Service said it was not going to happen. So, I've never been on a conference call with him. So I've never heard
it's a different experience.
Yeah.
And he led the conference call. It just is his humility. He leads the conference call. And conference calls, as we all know, none of us really like them for the most part. All the interruptions and the things. He has such tremendous patience, respect, and the authenticity is really inspiring. So I'm thankful for that, and it was definitely encouraging to be part of that.
From what I understand, he's really a listener. He takes he takes it all in from all sides, and he weighs all the points, and then he moves forward. Did you find that he was a good listener on that call?
Absolutely. There were a number of community leaders who were speaking about their experiences, and he was responsive to each issue that was brought up. So that was really eye-opening in a good way.
With the border issue being a hot topic, as an advocate for at-risk community, Deanna, how would you respond to the liberal left that wants to talk about children in cages?
Speaking of narratives, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is an issue that I've confronted. I have had a number of friends who have been upset with me for actually years now for
Really?
my support of, yes, and my support of the president, and also for my support of closing the border and, in my opinion, eliminating what pulls so many people into human trafficking. There are a lot of people who want a better life for their children. And I have the opportunity, like, unlike a lot of other people, I have the opportunity to speak with the people who send their children, who pay these things these fees to send their children, their family members with coyotes across the border, hoping for a better life. They are sold a story that they will get across the border, there will be hope, there will be the help that they need. Some of them, the journey is frightening. The president has said this before, and he has actually been criticized widely for saying young women and even children who are sent across the border are put on birth control because sexual assault in that trip across the border expected. It is astonishing to speak to the parents and the family members and to learn that that's actually true. That's what I have been told speaking with people in Guatemala, in other Central American countries.
What's amazing, though, when you talk about the victimization of individuals in those caravans, but yet you see when it's politicized, you have the individuals on the left literally opening their arms saying, come to America, you're going to get a Walmart gift card, you're going to get an apartment, we're going to give you a job, we're going to roll out the red carpet for you, even to the point where you hear that they're running ads in Central America to advertise this glorious caravan that's going to go up, but it's actually a nightmare to get into America. And then when they get here, they just become pawns in the political machinery of this country in order to flip an election, register for this party, register for that party, and they just become, political fodder. That's I think one of the greatest shames is how the powers that be manipulate the masses for their end game. Your thoughts?
They are actually treated as a commodity, and sadly, instead of as human beings. If you get to know the people who believe what they're sold, a better life, they're courageous in trying to make that journey. They're encouraged to do so. But the truth of it is, some don't make it. Some of them don't actually make it across. And when you encourage someone to take a dangerous journey with people who are not safe people, these people actually, some of the people who don't make it across, young women, even children, are found. I read a story about one as young as 8 years old, trafficked. This is the reality of it. You are selling children and women into slavery when you encourage them to make that trip, to try to get into America. And I understand their motivation. They have a hope and they want better for their family. They really do.
Yeah.
And they have no idea the nightmare that it can actually turn into until it's too late.
Deanna, we're going to jump to a break. And when we come back, we want to talk about some of the stuff that you've seen in states like New York, some of the shelters there, as well as, giving people some resources and how people can get out of an abusive relationship or find the resources, because that's what you are. You're an advocate because of the abuses that you've endured, and you've had to seek out those resources, and now you are sharing those resources. So we want to come back on the other side of this break to provide some of those points. So anyone listening, or if you know someone listening, they can get some help. So we'll be right back on the Gcast with Deanna Williams and my beautiful bride, Angie Franchi.
We've gotta pay a few bills over here, so sit tight, and the Gcast will return in a few moments. Time to return to the Gcast with your host, Gary Franchi.
And we are back on the Gcast, Gary Franchi with my beloved bride, Angie Franchi.
Welcome back, everyone.
It is Friday. It is episode 17. And we've got our Italian tracksuits on because the results are in. Angie is, she is Italian. I hate to break it to all the Greeks out there.
Don't tell my family. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'll take the 14%, though.
I think it's so cute.
I'll take the 14%.
Oh.
Now, speaking with our guest, Deanna Williams, she is an advocate for women. She has a really unique story, and she's taken what, I guess, okay, I'll say it. She took lemons and she made lemonade. Okay, I'll say that much. And she's really doing a wonderful job with it.
Incredible job.
To the point where she was actually on a conference call with the President of the United States.
She's making real change happen here.
Talking about how her work and how she can further her work in human trafficking, with the border issue, and so much more. Deanna, before we went to the break, we were about to talk about what's happening in New York. This was a really interesting question. Is it true that in some states like New York, that the shelters for women there, they're housed actually with men who identify as women, and then those individuals go on to assault those women? I mean, those women are there for protection, but it doesn't seem like they're getting that protection. Can you speak to that?
I would not have believed that this is true had I not seen myself. This is actually stunning. It is amazing that the women who go to find a safe place, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to leave a dangerous situation and seek help. And I commend them for that. There is so much courage and bravery among these women who go to these shelters, and they are looking for a lifeline. They're looking for an opportunity to begin again and find a safe, healthy path forward. And what they're actually encountering, what I experienced, I came face to face and met several. They were obviously, one individual was probably 6'3", 6'4", wearing a dress, somewhat almost bearded. He identified as a woman so that he could stay in the women's area and access all of their. This is where they shower, where they sleep in very close quarters. And some of the women reported being watched while they're showering, waking up and being stared at and seeing him touching himself while watching these women. They encounter the abuse that they're trying to
escape.
Yeah. Just with someone, they experience even more abuse, and those who run the shelters expressed their concern. There were some who were considering leaving their positions because they were so incredibly discouraged and depressed that their life's work is being compromised by some of these policies. And these are largely political policies that put women at risk. And it's extraordinary to see that. It is unbelievable that for politics, these people, Cuomo, actually, this is his policy. He is the one who started it and is in charge of this. It is so difficult to see that. And these leaders who have done so much fantastic work all of their lives, some of them have found other careers because they can't deal with the restrictions and the way that the state puts women in actual danger.
It's unacceptable, and it's horrifying to even imagine. I mean, I've personally have known family and friends who have sought shelter at a shelter for safety, for a night's rest, and to imagine, not being able to put your guard down for just a moment, knowing that you don't feel safe there. How does someone who is in a bad situation get help?
Especially if you have something like that to deal with. If you can't even go to a shelter because you're afraid that there might be somebody who identifies as a woman there, and they're only scoring political points in the administration of that home because they got to follow the governor's orders. I mean, what's the recourse here? What can somebody do who's in a bad situation get help?
In those situations, sadly, within those shelters, there is not a process to get help. The women who are victimized end up moving to a different situation instead of moving the offender. So that is phenomenally just discouraging. Those who are outside, I don't want anyone to be discouraged from reaching out for help, of course. The best way, there is a national resource center that has been trusted for years. That is RAIN, and you can call from anywhere in the country. The number is 1-800-656-HOPE. You can call them from anywhere. They will direct you to different resource centers committed to local domestic violence. They also have the numbers for the suicide hotline and local resources.
Could you repeat that number one more time? The first one is
1-800-656-HOPE.
1-800-656-HOPE.
Yes, and they are a terrific resource. One of the issues that has happened, however, during the pandemic is the call centers have been overwhelmed. There has been such a tremendous uptick in those for help, combined with the issues now of call centers not being operated from homes, and having fewer people who are volunteering. So there may be difficulty in reaching some of those people, and I would encourage anyone in their local community to do a search. Find an organization in your local, if you're having difficulty in reaching out to one of the national numbers. Don't give up. Continue to reach out for help. There are people out there who are trained and want to stand with you and be by your side through this process.
So encouraging. There is a place for safety and hope, and not to give up. What if you know someone who is in a bad situation and is scared to leave? How do you help them?
I always tell people, don't go it alone. This is in dealing with law enforcement. You need an advocate. And that first starts usually with friends and family members. In this pandemic, this situation has changed things dramatically. We don't have access to the same resource that we are able to rely on. So it's really a time to have an actual call to action for those who are aware of a friend, a family member, a neighbor who is at risk. Now is the time that we have to step in. We cannot count on some of these centers who have actually been closed during the pandemic, so there are not the resources and safe places to go. We have to step up and be your brother's keeper, or in this situation, be your sister's keeper. Be someone to keep a family or an individual safe in this situation, and make sure, check in and make sure they're okay. Provide them a safe place to stay. In everything that's happened, we are going to have to dig into our faith and reach out and help other people when we can. Come together to deal with some of the economic damage. That's going to create a tremendous amount of issues. So we're going to have to come together and start to deal with these issues in an entirely different way. So now it's time to look at those solutions and come together and take care of those in need, and not depend upon the government to do it.
Well, I'm always an advocate of individuals striking out, and don't wait for the handout. You got to pull yourself up, as hard as it may be. Pull yourself up and move forward to get beyond some of these things. We have to rely on each other. Don't always rely on, Big Brother, I guess.
Yeah, with our local.
Absolutely, and that's where the solutions lie. We all have experiences. We all have things that we are all leaders in our own circle. So we all have the opportunity to help. And you have to take that initiative instead of thinking that you're not qualified enough to help, or that someone else is going to come along to do it.
Oh, absolutely. That is such a strong message to drive home. We're absolutely supportive of that. You have to begin with yourself. You have to reach out in your community and help one another. We are huge advocates here in our local community of helping out the pantry.
Well, the Lazarus House is
yes,
another resource in our
there.
community. They have it's a shelter for women as well, and we contribute to them and we support them. There are local resources that you could find. I want to run that number out one more time. That's 1-800-656-HOPE. 1-800-656-HOPE, and you can give that number a call. Write it down right now if you're struggling, and put it in your back pocket, and give them a ring. And don't feel like you're alone out there dealing with this.
This is a great time to check on your neighbor, to check on your family and your friends, and to keep that number. Maybe you're not being abused, or maybe you're not in a bad situation, but keep that number close to your heart.
Deanna, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back again soon. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
I just want to encourage everyone during this time. There's so much hopelessness and so much depression We know where that leads. We know that as you were speaking about, the rise in suicides among victims of sexual violence, the suicide rate is exponentially higher. We have to overcome that stigma and reach out to those in need and those who have experienced victimization. It is so difficult to see beyond the misery and the pain of the situation, but there is hope. There is so much help. Where there is breath, there is hope, and there is someone who wants to stand beside you and give you the love, encouragement, truth, and support that you need throughout the journey. And I am always here to do what I can to do my part. One of the things that I specialize in, of course, is victims who have been victimized by very powerful, high-profile people. And I'm always here for that. I'm always here to do what I can to educate. And you will that you need if you reach out, even in this time. There are good, safe people. Don't go it alone, and trust your instincts.
Trust your instincts. We'll leave it right there. Deanna, thank you so much for joining us on the GCast.
Thank you so much.
Wow. You know, that's a story right there. Someone who took the victim,
yes,
and then she flipped it, and she has now, taken that pain and turned it into something positive.
Yes.
What was interesting too is that she's talking about high-profile people, and when you're affected, abused by a high-profile individual, those people have connections, they have power, they have money.
Yeah.
It's not like
that scares you to be becoming very quiet.
Well, and then in the same sense, you can draw a parallel to if you're abused by a family member, because the same mechanisms apply. If you're abused by a family member, then the family members may want to sweep it under the rug or be quiet about it and pretend it never happened, whereas the same thing happens with these high-profile people, where they have a mechanism in place to protect them and to pretend it never happened. So, there's parallels when it comes to these things.
That's a very good point.
But especially when you get into the upper echelons of abuse, when you're talking about these high-profile people, now you're talking about the mechanisms of power. You're talking about the judicial system. You're talking about the law enforcement authority, people who have the power on the public-facing side to sweep these things under the rug, and that's where it gets really scary.
She is very brave. Deanna is an incredible individual. She is the definition of being the change.
We didn't even get into some of the
happen.
points, some of the finer points I heard you guys talk about last night. Again, that number is 1-800-656-HOPE. If you're struggling out there, write that number down and reach out. We're going to come back on the flip side of this. I said flip side.
It's all right.
I said flip side. We're going to give you a subscriber count update, which is exciting.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited about that.
And, I mean, if you really want to know how many subscribers, just look below the window. You can find out before. That's a little teaser.
I love hearing it. I don't check it till we're here on air.
We've got a little story about Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe Rogan making some waves.
Beast mode. He is in beast mode.
Going into beast mode. We've also got a story about the CDC making a big old oopsie.
Oopsie.
And a Florida woman. It always happens in Florida. There's always some crazy story.
You can
Florida.
literally Google. I think you say a certain something on Google. You type something in and then you say Florida.
It's always Florida. These crazy stories. Well, we have another crazy story out of Florida you don't want to miss. And we'll be right back on the GCast.
Don't go anywhere. Gary Franchi will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to the G-Cast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the G-Cast. I'm Gary Franchi with my beautiful bride, Angie.
And it's Friday.
It's Friday.
What are your weekend plans?
My weekend plans? I don't know. I know I have to make another video to talk about what happened with this Illinois lawmaker. That's something I'm going to be doing shortly. And I'm just going to chill out this weekend.
Good. You need
I'm going to try to, at least.
I got gumbo coming.
Nice. No brisket for me this week, though.
No brisket for you, babe.
Oh, my goodness. I'm done with brisket for a while.
Oh,
Joe
if
Rogan
it
went to
doesn't
war.
rain, we'll try to do that movie, too.
Oh, the movie Outside with the Kids? Mm-hmm. That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, Joe Rogan. I love this. I love this story. Tell me about it, Gary.
Joe Rogan has signed an exclusivity contract for his podcast with Spotify as a way of striking back against YouTube censorship.
Take that.
The deal suggested to be worth $100 million.
Nice.
Rogan said he's sick of being treated poorly by Google, and the straw that broke the camel's back was when Rogan wanted to interview doctors and experts who have differing opinions on the crisis
Imagine that.
to the officially sanctioned narrative, and was told by YouTube that they would not allow such content on their platform.
Thank you, Joe Rogan, for putting the spotlight on this BS.
Joe Rogan's podcast was downloaded 190 million times per month last year alone.
Nice.
Now, from what I understand, he's actually going to be taking all of his content. He's going to be taking all of his content off of YouTube.
Yes. I love it.
Now, when I took a look at his statistics, holy cow. I'm going to pull them up here in a second. The Joe Rogan podcast, those statistics alone are astounding. Let me see if I can find them.
Didn't you just get so excited? Like when you told me this story, you and I need to hear stuff like this. We can't always be the person up front yelling and trying to make noise happen. You know what I mean? It's exhausting for us.
Okay, so Joe Rogan has 8.45 million subscribers. You can see that, right? Look at that. 8.45 million subscribers. He has
It works for him.
2.2 billion views, and he's been on the platform since 2013. Now, he's got an A- rating by Social Blade, 57th people ranking, 853rd subscriber rank. Now, 350,000 subscribers for the last month. Now we're going to dig into the day-to-day here for Joe Rogan.
I love that you can read this.
Look at these numbers. Okay, 10,000 subscribers a day, 20,000 subscribers a day. And look at these, the numbers in green right there, if you can see them.
I cannot.
I'll try to zoom in on them. Okay, so
There we go.
Look at that number right there. That is, on the 18th, 3.3 million views. 3.2 million views, 3.5 million, 4.8 million. And so far, today, 2.08 million views. His daily averages are 3.6 million views.
Okay.
Okay? Which is insane. So when you take that kind of momentum and you just strike it, he's taking all of his videos off YouTube. Done.
Doesn't
Bye.
that excite you?
Well, you know what? It's really sad. It's indicative though of the
But he can
the leadership
afford
of
to
YouTube.
do it.
This
in
is
his position. He's the one to make this ginormous stand.
he can do it.
Yes.
He can do it.
That face.
He's certainly capable of doing it, but this is the result of failed policies at the top of YouTube.
Tell it like it is, Gary.
The reality here is that Joe Rogan is taking one of the most powerful podcasts off of one of the most powerful platforms in the world. And he's saying, no, sorry, we're going to be able to talk to these doctors. We are going to interview these people.
I love it.
And we're going to continue. But other people, if you go against the globalist narrative, oh, guess what? Delete.
I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. I can't even live in this reality with you anymore. It's got to stop. And like, I'm so proud of him. And I'm just, it just gives me life again. Like I said, this is exhausting for us. The fight that we've been having to deal with. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. It's demoralizing is what it is.
Yeah.
I've been on YouTube for how many years?
How long you been in the game?
My first channel was in 2006. So I've seen all the changes. And
how much impact, how much bracing for impact do we have to endure?
Well, the fact that he's going to move off of YouTube is huge.
Yeah.
But it also shows, like I said, a failure of policy at the top of YouTube. Now, for people that don't know, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act gives YouTube, gives Google, gives Facebook the ability to say, hey, those people are publishing content and we're not responsible for that content. We're simply a communications tool. We're like a cell phone provider. You know, we're simply here to provide a way and a means for people to communicate and publish content. We're not liable for it. Thank you very much. But what ends up happening is that you have these groups that put extreme amounts of public pressure by saying that, oh, this goes against the community guidelines or this goes against this, and then they put all this pressure against YouTube to respond. And rather than saying, hey, we're not responsible for the content, here's the Section 230 that we are not responsible for what Joe Rogan interviews. We are not responsible for the people that Gary Franchi interviews.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Go back to your liberal cesspool of hatred. Okay. But they don't do that. What they do is they bow down to the pressure and they cave in rather than using the legal framework that they have to protect themselves. And it's to their own detriment because now you have Joe Rogan going off platform. And then you also have now the question is made, are they a publisher or a neutral platform?
Right.
And by the fact of them pulling content, removes them out of the 230 protection zone and puts them in publisher category.
Yes.
So they're actually, whoever's advising these people is actually making really bad decisions because they have the protections. And they're not using them. And in fact, they're by default becoming publishers.
I'm really happy you brought that up to clarify things and help people understand the bigger picture of YouTube and how they make their decisions.
Well, they're the second largest search engine in the world next to Google. They have the top two. We've been afforded a lot of success here on this platform. I love YouTube, and I have to say, participating in different creator events and going and meeting other YouTubers and being part of the YouTube community has been a wonderful blessing and an opportunity. But to watch it change over time based on political wins, never thought we'd see the day. I mean, I remember years ago, it was like, we're going to make a YouTube video and we're going to put the truth out there. And that's the way it's going to be. That's how we're getting our message out. When I transitioned from radio to YouTube years ago. Because you could say what you wanted to say. Now, everything's called a question because of the winds of politics. And that's what's really demoralizing. It's not just like one. It's not one. I mean, it is one-sided. It's the left-wing social justice warrior, radical narrative, pressuring because they lost an election.
Yeah. Instead, they want to choke you out. I feel so encouraged because this is something directly you and I have experienced with YouTube. The fact that he put a stop to this because of the same reason your videos were being pulled.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say he put a stop to it. He's taking a stand.
Yeah.
And by him taking a stand, YouTube responds to press pressure, headlines. And that's exactly what this created. This created a lot of backlash and negative headlines for the top of YouTube. Joe Rogan's like, later, I'm leaving with my 8.45 million subscribers. That's just one of his channels. He's got another one with like 4 million.
It's awesome. So awesome.
Before we jump to the next story, we only have 10 minutes left in the show here. Alex Jones revealed Thursday that Rogan signed an exclusivity contract for his podcast with Spotify as a way of striking back at YouTube censorship.
What?
Yeah. What?
Wait, Alex Jones said what?
Well, Alex and him are friends.
I know he's had him on the show. I didn't know that they were close. Is that what you're saying? They are close?
Jones told his audience that Rogan had encouraged him to go on air and put it all out there. Jones, who's appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience numerous times, also announced that Rogan had specifically requested in his contract with Spotify that the Infowars host will be allowed to appear uncensored on the podcast. Jones said Rogan wants him as the first guest on the show when it arrives on Spotify on the 1st of September, followed by Elon Musk, who is also currently speaking out against big tech censorship.
I could see that.
The last time Jones appeared on the podcast was most listened to podcast of 2019 with over 17 million views.
No way. Wow. 17 million.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wait.
Rogan told Jones the lockdown provided him more clarity on the situation, and Rogan noted on his podcast that YouTube is consistently demonetizing his content, removing videos, and told Jones he sees it not only as un-American but also anti-human.
You said it, baby.
Yeah.
The gloves are off.
Gloves are off.
They are, man. They are totally off. We are boxing later, by the way.
Are we?
Oh, hell yeah. So I got the pads and I got the gloves. This is amazing. Boxing is an incredible tool to let off some steam.
Do you need to let off some steam? Yeah.
Yes.
I got a thing we can do.
Mm-hmm.
What up, girl? You looking good, girl? No.
In my tracksuit.
In your tracksuit.
Good Lord. Can I wear this thing out?
Yeah, I think so. What happened to the CDC? They made another mistake?
Just another reason to not trust the CDC.
Are we even allowed to report this?
Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going against the World Health Organization, Gary.
I don't even want to talk about them, man. They're just a mess, too. The
What did it say?
CDC acknowledges mixing up coronavirus testing data. The viral testing is to understand how many people are getting infected, while antibody testing is like looking into the rearview mirror. The two tests are totally different signals. According to reports, several states, including Pennsylvania, Georgia, Texas, and Florida, have also been combining the results of the two tests.
So they're combining the results of the antibody and the positive tests. Okay.
I mean,
What does it say here?
the combining of the tests could lead to the skewing of the overall positivity rate of the test. Good God. A measurement that is one of the benchmarks used in the reopening guidelines released by the White House and CDC.
Well, even here in Illinois, Pritzker said they have to go with so many. The numbers have to be going down for 15 days or something before they will go ahead and go to the next phase of his tyranny. So that said, and I've said this before, the more tests you do, the more results you're going to get. But if you're going to be combining antibody tests with that as well, that's going to completely skew the results.
100%. Just got to breathe on this one.
The White House guidelines say that for a state to reopen, it must observe a downward trajectory in its number of daily cases or its percentage of positive cases. Meanwhile, they're classifying anything that if you die in a car accident or if you need some more vodka?
I need some more vodka.
If you die in a car accident, heart attack, COVID. Gunshot wound to the head, COVID. You die skydiving, COVID. Hit by a train, COVID. Right? That's what they're doing.
Hang on tight, folks.
Yeah.
Hang on tight. It'll get better.
It will. What about what happened in Florida?
What happened in Florida, Gary?
What doesn't happen in Florida?
Woo!
Tell me about this woman in Florida, Angie.
Florida woman arrested after kissing strangers at bar, calling 911 on same bar for violating distancing rules.
Wait a second. So she called 911 on a bar, the same bar, for violating social distancing while she's running around kissing strangers?
Good God, woman. A woman in Florida was arrested earlier this week after allegedly trying to kiss the patrons, not just a patron. Okay, there's patrons involved here.
Patrons?
I can't. Oh, I can't.
Do we have a picture? I think we have a picture. Hang on, I'm
Oh
going to
my
find
God, this is amazing.
it. I think I have the picture of this woman. Oh, is this her?
She was in lockdown too long. She got lonely.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
Can you see this? Hang on, wait, here it is. This is public domain, by the way.
Trying to kiss the patrons of a county bar and then repeatedly calling 911 to report the very same bar for ignoring social distancing guidelines.
I would definitely call the police if she came up on me, try kissing me.
The bar's owner told police that Adams had tried to kiss random patrons inside the bar before she was asked to leave.
She must have been wasted.
Adams initially refused,
All right, take that off the screen. Take that off the screen. We're scaring
but then
people.
wandered into the parking lot where she continued to refuse to leave, according to the arrest report. Police offered to call her a cab or phone her family to come pick her up, but instead she sat on the ground and stated that she would not go. I'm going back in to kiss some people.
During this time, she phoned 911 5 times, including once after the police had responded to the bar. And then again, when police were questioning her in the parking lot, she must have been wasted.
It happens, you know.
Can you imagine, like, talking to the police and I'm going to call 911. 911, what is your emergency? I'm being asked questions by the police.
Oh.
And I want to kiss them.
I want to kiss them. It happens. We all have nights like that.
Oh, really? We all have nights like that? I don't think I've ever had a night like that, Angie. Have you?
No.
Running around kissing strangers?
No. No.
Certainly, I hope not. You're a married
No.
woman.
I'm just saying that she had a night. She hadn't been out probably in a long time. And she, like.
She's like, I'm going to go kiss everybody.
I missed you.
I'm kissing everybody.
She was in a good mood.
But then she calls everyone. She calls the cops because the bar is not practicing
Why
social
won't
distancing.
you let me just kiss you?
How crazy is this? Everyone's getting called. Cops are calling everybody. People are calling out everyone for not social distancing. Paul Joseph Watson put together a really great video. This Karen meme that's going around. Have you seen this?
No, what is this? I've heard
It's
of
like,
it.
it's like this stereotypical image. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of the Karen meme. Karen meme. It's time for memes. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so this is the Karen meme. I'd like to speak to the manager haircut. Okay?
Oh my God.
That's the Karen meme.
I've dealt with her before.
Mm-hmm.
I've dealt with her before, certainly. Oh boy.
So he did a whole video based on like just people being Karens.
Yeah.
Reporting everybody for not social distancing.
Oh great. This was their shining moment. I'm sure. Oh, we have a sweet story here, Gary.
We do?
Yeah. Coming up right now.
What is it here? Whoa, a 15-year-old daughter cycling for 750 miles with her injured father on the back seat of a bicycle. Mute that, please.
Wow. Okay. A 15-year-old daughter cycles for 750 miles with her injured father on the back seat. India's lockdown to curb the spread of COVID-19 affected millions of migrant laborers across the country. And we've got video of it here.
Can we play the video?
The youngster is being lauded for carrying her wounded father and cycling more than 750 miles from, Gurugram.
Yeah, good work. Gurugram in Haryana, India.
Back to her native village in Bihar, her sheer dogness even impressed the Cycling Federation of India. Doggedness, excuse me. The shot hit me.
As the organization invited her for a trial once the lockdown ends.
Oh, I want to see this.
Wow. Well, she's speaking in another language, so we have it muted. But that's the girl right there.
Incredible.
She's not wearing her mask right now. There's the bicycle.
750 miles with Dad.
That's insane.
Oh, God bless her.
Did it say why she was injured or what was up with the father? Or did he have coronavirus? Do we know? He doesn't look like he's got... I mean, maybe he's got a broken leg or something. I don't know.
Her father was injured.
Well, that's a
a
beautiful
good
story.
little girl. 15 years old to do that.
Wow. Cycling 750 miles with Dad. Well, that's a wrap, folks. We're going to close out the show. Make sure you get your coffee at Wake Up with GCast, Franklin's Finest, $97 for 1 year supply. If you're struggling out there and you need some support, 1-800-656-HOPE is the number to call.
Hang on to that number.
Hang on to that number, but we do want to leave you with something that I think is really important. What do you call these? These are words from the presumptive Democrat nominee.
It's his wisdom.
It's wisdom. That's a good point. Yeah, it's wisdom.
It's wisdom. Oh, Lord.
So until next week, folks.
Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for subscribing.
Oh, I didn't get the subscriber update.
Let's do it.
Wait. Let me pull that up real quick. Thanks for reminding me. Where are we here? And 1 second. 1 second. And the number is 21,438 subscribers.
Beautiful.
And you can find us on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Pandora and all those places where podcasts are found. Until next week, folks, stay gold.
And if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black, I'm prepared to say that I have a record of over 40 years and that I'm going to beat Joe Biden.
That's all we've got for you right now. Gary's got to run. We thank you for tuning into our podcast. If you're hungry for more, head on over to Gary's Next News Network YouTube channel for the latest news and commentary on current events. Until next time, stay gold.